There is a surge of Americans who want to join the fight in Ukraine. They are emboldened by the invitation of Ukrainian President Zelensky, who is creating an international legion and is asking for volunteers from around the world to help defend his nation against Russia. In fact, Ukrainian diplomats in Washington, working out of the embassy in a townhouse in the Georgetown section of the city, are fielding thousands of offers from volunteers seeking to fight for Ukraine, even as they work on the far more pressing matter of securing weapons to defend against an increasingly brutal Russian onslaught. Former Special Forces Captain Myke Hawke knows firsthand what those volunteers are walking into. He's a combat veteran and also in touch with some veterans who are in Ukraine right now. He joins us here on The Morning Show. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, sir. Thanks for having me.
The U.S. government understands the passion to want to help Ukraine, but it is discouraging Americans from joining the fight because there are legal and national security issues. Your thoughts?
Yes, sir. I mean, it's a very big deal. A lot of people need to realize nothing like this has ever happened. You can't compare this to Sudan or anywhere else. You've got basically a madman off the leash with his finger on the red button, and that could trigger World War III. So the U.S. is doing everything they can to help the Ukraine without committing military troops. While there are legal ways that we can do that, it would play right into what Putin's trying to do, is prove that we are the aggressors, and it would justify everything that he's been saying. So we just can't do it. What that means is Ukraine is frustrated. Americans are frustrated. Ukraine is asking for help. Americans want to help. What they've done is very unique because they've created a foreign legion, which means that Americans can actually go and join legally. Americans can serve in a foreign legion as long as it's with an ally and not an enemy. So those people who went off and served with ISIS, they end up going to jail and losing their citizenship. People who go over to Ukraine can volunteer and it shouldn't impact them. However, there are many legal implications because the Geneva Convention doesn't specifically address this type of scenario on the ground. And until that gets hammered out, the Russians, if they capture anybody who volunteers, could treat them as a war criminal, and they don't have the normal protections provided. Likewise, the State Department has told all Americans to get out. So if something goes on, they're not really obligated to help them. And it does create extra problems for them because of security clearances, where they might be, what forces we might support, where they might attack. And it creates a whole slew of additional problems. And so they're asking people to be very mindful about this. However, if people do want to go and volunteer, they have to realize that there's a real risk that Putin could burn the place to the ground, that he could press the red button, that they could die. Do they have their insurance? Do they have their affairs in order? Are they ready to really go and do this? So there are people on the ground who are willing to forsake all of these risks to help because they do believe, but it is a very dangerous situation on the ground, and that's why the U.S. is generally saying caution to its citizens who want to volunteer.
So I did some checking. I found out that so far 100 U.S. citizens have made the cut to join Ukraine in the fight. They include veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. They do have military experience. They have to make their own way to Poland, where they are to cross at a specified point with their own protective gear, but without a weapon, which they get when they arrive. They'll be required to sign a contract to serve without pay, but they do have to understand that under some circumstances, they could face criminal penalties by taking part in an overseas conflict. And as you said, they put themselves on the line in some very, very specific ways.
Yes, these are all true statements. I think it's important to kind of differentiate between the types of people going over. So I see a lot of doctors, nurses, paramedics, physician assistants, special ops medics who are volunteering to go over and work in a humanitarian capacity. And I also see a lot of soldiers who have combat experience, who are special ops, and they are trying to get over there and help where they can because they have that expertise. So what I advise all my friends who come to me and ask for help and how to get in is, hey, if you're a civilian without combat experience, I don't recommend it. And even if you're a veteran without combat experience, I don't recommend that you try to get involved in this kind of complex conflict as your first combat experience. So across the battlefield, there's a lot of risk for everyone. But I think it's important to differentiate between those people who are going in a humanitarian, voluntary capacity versus those who are going in a military capacity to try to help them survive this Russian onslaught.
Right. Instead of going in a Rambo-like faction, you talked about other ways you could work in a humanitarian way. I heard the story of one man who actually helped some twins who'd just been born and needed medical help get to safe haven across the Polish border. You can, do things by helping civilians escape to safety, by cooking to help people who are trying to, escape to safety. There are a lot of things that you can do to help.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got everything from people trying to rescue kids that have lost their parents, get parents and children out, trying to get them to someplace safe, trying to get them into other countries, just doing all the little things like helping to find where the food is on the battlefield, where are safe places on the battlefield, communicating on the ground. There's a group out there, Tactivate with Jesse Levine. He's been on the ground for a while, and basically he's doing what in the military we would call civil affairs, where basically he just tries to find out who is in the environment that has things, who's in the environment that has need, and try to get everybody connected, because the world needs to realize this is so unprecedented and all the relief efforts are so ad hoc that there's still a lot of that fog of war in the initial phase of this. So everybody just needs to be very careful and try to vet the best they can on who they're going in, what they're trying to do, and realize the risk. But yes, there are many ways that people can help other than fighting.
Right, because you could further complicate the situation. Myke Hawke, thank you for your time.